it's been since 1959.
Yeah.
And I'm not the first person who's come to ask you questions about 1959.
Oh, yes.
Maybe it's the wrong question, but are you tired of answering questions about it at this stage?
Well, there's very few people now that recognise me from 1959. Like, they want to be the older generation.
Yeah.
So, and it's only when it comes around like this, that people develop an interest. But in the normal course of events, you're talking about people who would have a recollection of the times, like, they'd be all in their 70s.
Yeah.
Of course.
So no, I think they're after what do you call it? They're not interested in the older people anymore. That's fine, like,
But Tom, I remember you said to me before, like, the great hurlers we had back in Jim Green, Pat McGrath, going back to them, John Galvin, like, all-star hurlers.
Yeah.
But yet we just weren't able to put it all together, and then up to Ken McGrath's era as well, and Dan Shanahan and Tony. What do you think was missing?
What we had at that time was top-class forwards, but we had the back line to mark him, to match him, like, So, like, this team has a strong, what they call it, defence, and they have a different method of playing anyway, like, and they're playing to a plan anyway, and it's working for them. That would be the difference I would see now, like, there's good forwards on this team, but there's no forwards on this team that would match the Dan Shanahan's, what's his name, Paul Flynn, Kelly, Big Seamus, Prendergast, So that's the difference between those that I would see between the team that way short, like,
So you feel you build from the back without a good backline, you reckon,
right,
and a good goalkeeper, obviously. Without a good defence, you're in trouble.
That's right, yeah. But they were so near and yet so far. Like, they went the semi-finals, and getting beaten by a point or two, or quarter-finals and winning them, and then getting beaten in semi-finals. So they were in Croke Park a lot of times in August, in the whatever called it, 20, Dan Shanahan's time.
2008.
2008, yeah. The number of times that they were in Croke Park.
Yeah.
The ambition at the time was to be hurling in August.
That's it.
And they were hurling very often in August,
But Tom, if you think your era, you won the minor in 48 and the senior.
Yeah.
You had a lot of false dawns in the 50s. Do you think the fact that 57 you got to the final, a final you should have won, did that help you in 59, or did it matter a lot? Because you were 9 years, almost 10 years more, putting this team together to win one.
Yeah, but obviously losing in 57 for a match that we shouldn't have lost. Obviously that's an incentive, and like a lot of Waterford teams, at that time anyway, if they had a good year, then the next year was going to be a bad year, and that's the way it worked out with us. In 57 we should have won the All Ireland. In 1958 we were beaten out the door by Tipperary in the Munster final, and then you came along to the following in 59, and we had the honour of introducing Galway to the Munster Championship.
That's right. Yeah.
They were the first time they came into Munster, we played them, and then they had a big win over Tipperary after that, and Cork must have final against Cork. And they were lucky to draw the draw in All Ireland. You know.
Do you feel he played a lot better in the replay? Like the draw in All Ireland looked to be gone, and he salvaged Seamus Power's late goal, but the replay really, you were the better team in the replay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think we must have won by about 8 points. I think something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but I was just thinking about that. The funny thing about that is that after the drawn match, there was a trial match played down Welsh Park, open to the public. And there was 2 changes made on the team. Now we conceded five goals, 5-5 to 117, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and there was 2 changes made, and you'd be expecting this to be 2 backs changed. No, but there was 2 forwards dropped, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it worked all out in the end anyway, like, you know.
So this year's team, Tom, I spoke to you several nights about it. Again, you saw something different this year in the Waterford team.
Oh yeah, they're different altogether, like, you know. They're more. They seem to be. Now, I wouldn't have seen any of them playing live, so
Yes.
I'm not in a position to comment on any of the individual fellas, but they seem. They have a back line now, like, you know. They have a half back line, like, with and putting Moran back as a half back was a good move anyway, because he had given his time in the half forward line. He was never comfortable, I'd say, with it. I wouldn't be sure of that, but I never spoke to the boy. But this team is kind of, they have skill and they have work rate, you know, 2 of the things that you need, like, you know. So they that's not to criticise previous teams, but it must be something the way that Cal is dealing with him, I'd say, like, you know. You know, like, after the half time in the Kilkenny match, you wouldn't be giving them much hope, like, you know. But then they came out and they hurled them off the field, you could say, like, you know. So he must be a big addition to him, like, you know, and not to be hard on his predecessors, but he's given them something that they didn't have before, and they found these 4 new fellas that, like, no one ever heard of, like, you know. Lines from Ballyduff, is it?
Yeah.
And the Prendergast.
There's more.
And then there's this chap from Mead, Jack Fagan, is it? Yeah. And
Dizzy
I think they
Hutchinson.
found full back in
Connor
Prunty, like, you know. And the other thing is they have physique, you know. You know, they have a lot of big men playing, like, you know. Think of the Prendergast and Lines and Prunty, and there's probably other bigger fellas around, like, you know, and even Kevin Moore is a big chap, like, you know. So they're I think they're set up to win it anyway.
Do you think beating Kilkenny was a huge psychological boost for them?
Well, I wouldn't say that so much as beating Kilkenny from the position that they came at half time was, like, you know. But having beaten Kilkenny previously, you know, in the semi-final or a couple of years ago, was it?
The quarter-final,
Yeah, quarter-final, was it? No, I say the big boost was, like, it gave what I call it, gave them that bit more confidence. That they had confidence anyway, but the fact that they were being written off everyone at half time, like, you know, and who was that was commentating on the bloody thing? Oh yeah, Don Low Cusick said at half time Waterford weren't at the races.
Yeah.
I don't know what program he was on, but it was at half time in the match anyway. As he said, anyway, Waterford weren't at the races. I'm sure he didn't blush anyway, because that wouldn't be his fault.
Have you been impressed with Limerick, Tom?
Yeah, Limerick are an exceptional team too, like, you know. But like, we were only 3 or 4 points behind them in the Munster final, and we've come on all those matches. You know, that has brought the team on, like, you know. You know, so like losing the Munster final was disappointing, but they developed as a better team after it, I think, like, you know. So like a lot of I'd give them a real good chance on Sunday. Except they'd want to play, they wouldn't want to take a half hour off.
So I suppose, Tom, the last thing I have for you is,
Sorry?
the last thing I'd want to ask you is,
Yes.
maybe not even just, like, obviously you want to see him win it,
Of course, yes.
but is it more to see this team winning All Ireland, or to see Waterford finally get over the hurdle again, because it has been so long?
It's just a matter of seeing Waterford win, like, you know.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, like, you know. And it isn't a matter of, you know, it is whatever 60 years or whatever it is, like, you know, since the last time, like, that's kind of history. Like, what matters now is that they win this one, because, you know, you don't got to have that many chances, like, you know, and that's what the history part of it, to me, has no effect on this current team.
Yeah.
You know, because none of them were born when this was happening, like, you know. So I that would be my view anyway, like, you know, that the important thing is for Waterford to win, rather than breaking the mould or breaking the 50-year gap or all those things, like, that comes afterwards, like, you know. So that's as much as I could say about that, sure.
And have you enjoyed watching this team playing as opposed to the last couple of years?
I haven't been at a match for a number of years. A good number of years I haven't seen this team playing live, or its predecessor, for, I'd be embarrassed to say so, but the last match I was at that Waterford played was the 2008 All Ireland.
Oh, the Kilkenny match, yeah.
Kilkenny match, yeah. The Kilkenny massacre. At the moment, because my eyesight is affected, I can't really view it on television even, like, you know, so so I'm not really a judge of what's happening at the moment.
Sure.
Well, from this year on anyway, like previously I could have a view of it on the television, but and again, television only gives you kind of a pen picture of what's happening, like, you know, so, but anyway, to answer your question, the important thing is to win the match, like, you know.
Yeah.
All the other additions can come afterwards, like, you know. Just they might be able to make 2 in a row, if you like, but because they're a young team, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, the fact you're a proud Dungarvan man, yourself and John Kiley in 59, now you've Patrick Curran, you've Dara Lyons, and then you've 2 Abbey side men where you'd Austin and Dolan Whelan before, you have Conor Prunty and Niall Montgomery. So
that's right, yeah.
how important for you to have a local representative, particularly from your club in Dungarvan? You're living here in Abbey side.
Oh, that is... Well, I'm living. That's all I'm doing. I'm living in Abbey side, but my club is down there, and the same thing as if you were talking to Austin Flynn and asked him the same question. He did the same thing with
He's
him.
an Abbey side man, exiled in Dungarvan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So having 2 Dungarvan men, Tom, you must be delighted to have two of your club men.
It is, yeah. And young Lyons is after developing. He's small, but he's competitive. A bit fiery sometimes, I understand, but there's no harm either. But it's great for any club to have a player in all Ireland, whether he's a player or a sub or anything else, once he's part of the panel, so now that the whole 36 of them are able to go, it's only what they deserve anyway, what they deserve even before they permitted it, why 6 fellas or 5 fellas from each team was going to do any harm to the crowd or anything else, but anyway, they're where they deserve to be now anyway.
It'll be a proud day to see the cup coming back to Dungarvan, whenever it'll be. I know with COVID it won't be, but memories of 59, a lot of people are long since gone, but for you, bridging that gap must be, as you said, it doesn't matter to the players as such, but it's been too long for a county like Waterford.
Yeah, well, it's too long for people to be talking about 59. It's 50 years afterwards, and it's only kind of, it's only, give another opponents, the stronger teams kind of seem to have the right to kind of be a bit look down on you, not as much as used to be, but the winning in the match is the main thing, and whether there's a parade or there's nothing that'll all be forgotten. 6 months' time, they'll still be All Ireland champions. Whether there was 5 there or 5,000 or 50,000, it's still the All Ireland, and it can't be belittled because of the way things turned out and the way it had to be played, and it probably benefited Waterford the way it was played anyway, So maybe we should look to have it done that way every year.
That's very good.
And would you have thought, Tom?
Sorry?
Would you have thought that when he won it, that it'd take this long for us to be in with a real chance of winning it again? I know we've had a couple of chances in the last number of years, but
yeah, well, you see, you really don't think that way, or at least I didn't think anyway that way, that it'd take that long, because every year you get out with hope, that you were going to do it, so every year became a disappointment rather than anything else. But people only started counting the years as they mounted up, so the fact that this is kind of breaking whatever the hoodoo is for 50.
60.
How many years are we? 51 or 50?
61.
61.
Yeah.
60.
Yeah, so that's to be a grand thing to have done, for the team to have done, to break the 50-year gap or 60-year gap, you know. But outside of that, it'll be there all Ireland. The other one will be gone and lost and forgotten, like, you know, and they'll be the current people that people want to talk to, or that young as you can bring to schools to
Yes.
show off to youngsters and that, like, you know. So there's a lot of pluses going with a win that carries over for a number of years, and you know, it helps to promote the game. It's, you know, get the young fellas out hurling, and you know, so it becomes the, you know, for the young fellas, it becomes the game to play after winning in All Ireland, like, you know. So it helps that way as well. So,
Brilliant.
Lovely, Tom.
That's
Thanks
great,
very much.
Tom. Thanks.
you right?
Inspire a generation.
It will. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
WLR, Imro Local Station of the Year.